This will be the best thing that you've seen all week. JD Vance's sit down with Joe Rogan is breaking even more records, but no moment stood out to me more than when both went after Kamala Harris for her word salad answers and a string of failed interviews in the run-up to the election. One such interview that's back in the news was with CBS as the network stands accused of unfair editing. Take a look at this before I tell you more about it.
If you want to go and investigate Kamala Harris's campaign, go and do it. But that is what it would look like, is empowering conservative and independent journalism in the same way that Jeff Bezos has empowered left-wing journalism. If I see that happening, then I'll be a little bit more optimistic about his stewardship.
Well, could you imagine if there's the same sort of scrutiny on Kamala's speeches and appearances in these media outlets as there is on Trump's?
Oh, my God.
Like, one of the things that we talked about was how they edited that one answer that she was asked, like, what, about foreign policy.
CBS.
Yeah. They edited it completely. And I wasn't aware that they put an answer for a completely different question there.
Well, okay, so I think that what happened there, having done try to understand that a little bit better, is they basically just edited her answer down a lot so that she didn't sound like a total insane person. Because what aired, I think, on the smaller, what aired on the channels online that had a smaller pickup
was the rambling.
The
word salad.
But what actually aired on the news programs was, it still didn't sound very good, but it sounded a hell of a lot better. But let me give you a very good example of this.
It's really not the answer.
So
it's like they changed the answer.
I really think JD Vance is giving too much of a charitable reading to the entire debacle with Kamala Harris' CBS interview, and the reason for that is that CBS News was dumb enough to put out two versions of the same interview, one for television broadcast and one on YouTube, and the difference was just staring people in the face for how the TV version was heavily cut up to give the impression that Kamala Harris was answering straight questions when she clearly wasn't. By the way, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, because we show you what the mainstream media will not. Now, here's a snapshot of what that difference was, especially on the question about the wars raging in the Middle East.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
But it seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
And you know what? This mistake is coming back to haunt CBS News as well as the Kamala Harris campaign, because Donald Trump has announced to sue the network for alleging election interference with this heavy editing for a staggering $10 billion. Here's the part of the lawsuit that reads, quote, "This action concerns CBS's partisan and unlawful acts of election and voter interference through malicious, deceptive, and substantial news distortion calculated to confuse, deceive, and mislead the public, an attempt to tip the scales in favor of the Democratic Party as the heated 2024 presidential election." But the troubles have only just begun for Kamala Harris and the Democrats, especially after Biden's new scandalous reference to Trump voters as garbage. And it's one more thing that revealed the media's unabashed partisanship, especially the discrepancy in how the coverage what's being called garbage gate to some offensive joke about Puerto Rico that an unaffiliated insult comic made at a Trump rally that the Republican campaign has completely disassociated from.
143 on MSNBC, 101 on ABC, 53 on NBC, 32 and on CBS, 31. In 2 days, they talked about that joke effectively nonstop. You know what it means to have 31 mentions on NBC News about this particular thing? That is that is saturation. Last night, Joe Biden called the half of America that's going to vote for Donald Trump garbage. Do you think that the word garbage is going to appear on CNN 141 times over the next 2 days?
No.
I would bet no. Now, what's the difference? Well, one difference is that it was a comedian telling a joke, and it's the president of the United States telling what he actually thinks. Another difference is, again, it's a comedian with, at best, a tenuous connection to the Trump campaign. And on the other hand, you have the actual sitting president at a vice presidential campaign event telling the vice president, telling the entire country at an event sanctioned by the Kamala Harris campaign that half of Americans are garbage, and I guarantee the media is not going to cover this in the same way.
You can just feel how the Democratic campaign is recoiling at the statement by Joe Biden that came at the worst possible time just days before the election, and you know what? It seems to have exposed many media figures as well who are taking every logical leap possible to downplay the comment. Even people in the media as far left as Cenk Uygur had only one way to come out of it, which is admitting Joe Biden's senility for the presidency, but that only raises more questions than it answers.
You know my position on Biden. I ran against him because I thought he was senile and I thought it was ridiculous. But now all of a sudden you're pretending he's not senile. He is senile. It's like getting mad at somebody with Alzheimer's. What are you getting mad at him for? Well, that's ridiculous. But that's not the point, guys. Look, I'm granting you that he definitely shouldn't have said that. And Debbie Dingell definitely shouldn't have said internment camps because Trump never said that.
And I think that's a perfect example of how the Democratic campaign is almost stuck between a rock and a hard place at this point. They're trying to prop up Kamala Harris while also trying to defend and make excuses for Kamala Harris and her word salads. That job was made particularly difficult for the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, who had to defend the most vivid and clear statement of Joe Biden calling Trump supporters garbage.
So a couple of things. So just to clarify, he was not calling Trump supporters garbage, which is why he wanted to make sure that we put out a statement that clarified what he meant and what he was trying to say. And so just want to make that very clear for folks who are watching. And I just want to read that out to folks. So he was regarding to the comedian, and I quote, "I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say. The comments at the rally don't reflect who we are as a nation."
All this while the election approaches and they are tanking in the polls. And while both Trump and J.D. Vance have made an appearance on Joe Rogan, no one from the top of the Democratic ticket has sat down for an uncensored long-form conversation, and Joe Rogan thinks he knows why, sending even J.D. Vance into a fit of laughter.
Do you think she wears an earpiece?
I wouldn't be surprised. I have no idea.
The earpiece one was amazing.
But man,
the little
she just
Bluetooth thing, the earring.
It's astonishing. She talks. The only way I can describe it is she talks in circles.
Yeah,
right. It's like
Tim Dillon says it's like she does gypsy curses because she speaks in gypsy curses.
That's very good. But it's we need to build an opportunity economy, because if Americans don't have opportunity, then they're not going to have the opportunity to be Americans. And it's like, what the hell?
It is incredible seeing both of them share that laughter together, even though this is probably the first time that they've ever met on a public platform or at all. This is precisely the kind of conversation that Joe Rogan wanted to have with Kamala Harris, and it would have been such a good look for the voter base if she had come across as relatable. Right now, that's not going to happen as we're just days from this decisive election, but let me know in the comments what you think, and share this video with the people that need to see this stark difference to make a more informed decision on the November 5th.